Alright, out fam, let's do a quick market update. Before we begin, I do want to say that nothing in this video is financial advice. Everything is for educational purposes only. It's just my own analysis on the market. Also, if you're new to this channel, if you can please like, comment, and subscribe. We really do appreciate all the support, guys. So, I want to do a quick Sunday update. A couple of different things. I want to first kind of show you guys the framework of what I do to prepare for the following week. And some of the things that I do in order to look for different events, different setups, and then also direction. Like, what direction do I think we're going to continue going into? So we'll first start off, obviously, you guys know, I start off with Bitcoin. This is my bias and where I get for my market direction as far as the crypto market's concerned. It's what I generally watch. Generally speaking, Bitcoin's pumping, altcoins are pumping. Bitcoin's dumping, altcoins are dumping. You want to look at Bitcoin structure in order to get it. Even if you're not, I don't hold no Bitcoin. All right. I'm a Bitcoin maxi. It's not that I don't hold Bitcoin because I don't believe in Bitcoin. I just don't hold it because of this part in this cycle. My money is deployed into altcoins because I think there's greater upside potential for alts than I do Bitcoin. You know, I held my Bitcoin for 27,000, sold it, started scaling out at 100 grand, and I did that about a year ago publicly. So with that being said, the first thing I like to do is get a general idea of what's going on. So obviously you guys know I'm a big believer in above the 50, uptrend, below, down, chopping in between. We're in accumulation. We're looking for key things. So we already know where we think we're at in the Wyckoff. We know that we're breaking out of the accumulation. We're starting the new uptrend. With that, we want to determine, are we still 100% out of the accumulation, or are we in fact still have a potential to maybe dip back down below, go back and maybe create like a spring and a panic in the market before that happens. More in the camp that I think we've already completed our spring. We've got our general uptrend already started. There's a bit of momentum behind Bitcoin right now. We can see it in the charts. Bitcoin's obviously got some levels it needs to reclaim, but generally speaking, Bitcoin looks pretty good as far as in where I think it's going to go during this week. So the next thing I do, and you can do this a couple of different ways, guys. I like to look for what macro events are going to come up this week. So the first thing that I will do, guys, is I will go to forexfactory.com. I will open it up, and what it's going to do is it's going to show me a calendar where I can basically place this week on there. And then what I want to do is I want to look at all of the different macro events for that week, and I want to see what's going on. All right. So we know Monday we've got final CPI for year on year. This is for last year's. This is for Europe, and these are a lot of European stuff that's coming out tomorrow. But there's also a bank holiday for the U.S. All right, which is Martin Luther King Day. So this is something that's going to hold a little significance because we know that volume and liquidity is going to be low on days that the stock market is closed for banking holidays. All right. So this is something to keep in mind. Next day, we look and see the Europe has a bunch of data coming out, but we got ADP weekly employment change is going to be coming out this week. We come down and let's look. We've got President Trump is speaking at 8:30. This is on the 21st. That could bring a little volatility depending on what's being talked about. Looking down, we got API weekly strategical bulletin. That's not really going to hold any more impact. And I'm doing this live, guys, so you guys can kind of see my framework as how I look at different things going into the week so I can start preparing. And then like different macro events that I know are going to have either a perplexity for volatility or whatnot. What I will do is I will pre-prepare for those dates and getting an idea or framework if I think it's going to be a bullish event, negative event, whatnot, and then look at where we're at in market structure. Remember, I'll say this all the time, price makes narrative. Price starts to rip, they're going to attach a story to it to basically justify the pump. If price dumps, it's the same exact thing. Everybody wants to attach it to a negative event. So they want to create a narrative behind it. This will allow you to look at the market. So again, let's say we're overextended on let's say that we hadn't just had a few days to cool down, and like this would have happened beginning on like Monday, going into it, then you could expect like a massive macro event or something negative. They will use that to be able to bring markets down, liquidate some longs, flush out some leverage, and then this gives you an idea of when are we actually going to come back down and retest this 50 as bullish support. We can see we've kind of did it here. We tested the previous resistance zone right here and now found support, and we've done it again up here. All right. What we need to do is we're going to eventually have to come back down, and not always, and I'll show you some scenarios, but for the most part, come back down, retest this 50 at some point, even if this thing kind of just chops sideways for the next few days as the 50 kind of starts to come up, wick down, test, and then push up. Generally speaking, what you want to see. When you get these new uptrends, and you can see them, like so Bitcoin, the last one, when it broke a 50, it never really came all the way down and retest the 50. There was so much momentum, but when it did retest it, you can see it did it here, and then it did it here. This was even when people were scared that they thought the market was going to potentially roll over, but again, it was just making a big bull flag, and then it did its breakup, and then you can see the continuation. Generally speaking, when you start these uptrends, you usually get a retest or two of the 50-day as bullish confirmation for your continuation to the upside. All right. With that, not only do I look at that for the weekly bias on Bitcoin and crypto and then look at the macro events, the next thing I want to look through is I start going through some of the other assets and I get just the general bias. So like we know, NASDAQ is an uptrend. To me, it looks like it's kind of making this bullish pendant up here. We're kind of waiting for it to break out. NASDAQ hasn't made a new all-time high yet, but I think it's coming. We know that S&P 500 and futures have already been at all-time highs and been breaking records. I also like to look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, confirmed uptrend above the 50. It looks good, so altcoins are catching a bid. Then I like to look at Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance is getting ready to come right back down and re-break below this 50. I think it'll probably happen in the next couple of days, and it's just generally just been kind of chopping sideways at this level for a while. But again, guys, we know that this thing made this bear flag right here. We were watching this months ago, and then broke down, and then it's just been doing this bearish retest of this zone. And what we're actually waiting for at this point is actually a breakdown further, so we can. And I'm guessing my next level would be to see some confluence would probably be right here because it was a major resistance turned into support. We can expect a reaction at that zone. Next thing I like to do is look at USDT dominance, guys, just to kind of get a general overview of where I think we are. We're finally back below the 50. With that being said, we have broken, and you guys can kind of see it right here. If I draw this box, you can see this level is kind of holding as support, and now it looks like it's broken below that level, and now is using it as resistance. What we want to see is break below this level, and then I would guess we'd probably be looking at a couple of other key levels. You can see this level right here, why we bounced out of it, because it was massive resistance and then turned into future support. So when that thing breaks, I'm guessing the next level would be down below here. You see this was support, turned into this was resistance, turned into support. So as this thing kind of breaks down from these levels, you're going to kind of see this kind of pattern, and these things will just kind of continue to do the same thing. Just kind of, a general breakdown, retest, breakdown, and then as it does a continuation. Obviously, we need to see USDT dominance come way lower. Again, guys, it's basically inverse to your crypto bags. You want USDT dominance to go down. USDT dominance going down means your bags are going up and vice versa. So with that being said, guys, I think that this thing is finally starting to show it's showing we're in a confirmed downtrend and is showing a lot of weakness. Starting to see this thing continue to roll over. Next thing I like to do, guys, is I like to look at the total market cap of the altcoins and the total market cap of the entire crypto market in general. And we've been talking about this for a while. This also gives me a bias on where I think the crypto market is going. You can see we've come back up. We've basically tapped this 3.29 level. We've come back down. We're finding support right now above this. Again, same thing kind of applies for this. I would like to see a bullish retest of this 50-day as this thing kind of comes up and this thing maybe kind of chops sideways. Maybe we get a wick down and then a push up. All right. And then at this time, it's kind of like making a bear flag. A bull flag. I apologize, guys. Making a bull flag right inside of this zone. And even if you come into the lower time frame, guys, you can kind of see it. So this is where, once I get a general idea of where I think everything's at, this is when I start going into some of my altcoins and their lower time frames. All right. So like looking at Bitcoin on the 4-hour, Bitcoin does look like it's making a bull pendant right here, guys. And this thing could extend for a while. I'm not saying that this is necessarily its resistance zone. This thing could even extend out like this. And this thing could chop in between this for a little while. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be just in these parameters, but this is what it looks like. Looks like it's kind of bouncing. I would expect probably us to get this up here, probably reject, come back down as this 50-day starts to curve up, retest it on the 4-hour, and then this might even give us the validity of when this thing comes up, maybe we're almost down there, and then the breakout of the bull flag. This definitely looks like I'm looking at trend continuation on this. All right, this does look pretty good. Now again, nothing is 100% guaranteed bear flag, bull flag, whatever chart pattern, doesn't matter. Nothing is 100% guaranteed. We're dealing with a set of probabilities. This is just when you get a bias on which direction you think the market is. And then from there, once I start looking for patterns, the next thing that I like to do, guys, is I like to start looking at some of the oscillators to get a kind of an idea of where I think things are at. So we're looking at the RSI. Right now we can see we've come back down to 52. This is what you want to do, is you want to, in a bullish uptrend, you want to basically, generally speaking, stay above like the 40 to 50 on the RSI, generally speaking. All right. You basically want to come into this level between these two zones, and I'll show you the 40 to 50 zone. And if I extend this back, guys, you can see in these bullish uptrends what happens. They stay in this zone, and it bounces, makes extension bounce, but you can see. And then once they get overextended, they have to cool down a little bit. And we call this in the community, guys, I called this bearish divergence. And I said this is most likely going to be the key cool down zone, because I noticed this immediately. So just like bullish divergences, bearish divergences are showing a shift in momentum to the downside, which means momentum is slowing and sellers are taking back over and buyers are losing momentum and is getting a chance to cool down. And you can see how that worked right there, because we were overexhausted on the oscillator. As the oscillator comes down, guys, and starts retesting this 50 zone, you want to see a bounce, a reclaim of the signal line, and then a push back up. All right? That's what you want to see. And I think we will, guys. I generally do. This does look pretty bullish to me. You can see the signal line is curling back up, or the oscillator's curling back up underneath the signal line right now, looking like it's trying to break. You can see it right there. So this looks pretty good. I think we get a break in the beginning of this week. I'm actually didn't want to pump over the weekend, guys. I don't like creating these CME gaps over the weekends. They're extremely bearish, because 95% probability that we are going to come back down. So when I look at the general bias of Bitcoin, then I'll start going into some of the lower time frames to start looking for the trend continuation. But looking at this now from Bitcoin standpoint, we're above the 50. We're above the 50 on the RSI. We're making a bull pendant, trend continuation. This is kind of what the bias is. This is what I'm feeling like right now. And again, like I said, this is going to be a multi-month move. But on the lower time frames, it looks like we're going to get a move to the upside. So from there, I like to do the same thing for Ethereum, because I always look at Ethereum as a general guide for my altcoins, guys. And you can see Ethereum looking very bullish as well. If I actually bring this down, Ethereum's doing something very similar. You can see prior resistance was used as future support. You can see that it looks like it's trying to create this bull flag. And we can see that the RSI is also above the 50. You can see it started bouncing. It's at 60 now. And then on the daily, it's at 63. All right. So again, these things can stay over the 70 line for a bit of time, especially in like super bullish momentum moves. You'll kind of see this thing kind of chopping above like the 60 to 70 to 80, kind of like this, where it kind of, you know, as it makes moves up, it'll have a chance to cool down a little bit. This will cool the RSI down a little bit, and then it breaks out and does another move up, and it kind of repeats the same pattern as that trend continuation continues. But to me, Ethereum looks pretty good. So from there, I am looking for us to get a continuation this week, guys. I think there's a lot of momentum in the crypto markets. There is still a couple of things that are a little kind of looming over us that are a little bit negative. I know they're still kind of deciding on what's going to happen with the tariffs in the tariff Supreme Court. But then we hear other rumors that they're actually not, they don't think it's actually going to work out the way that they think they do. They think that they're actually going to keep them going. So that's one little thing that I'm monitoring this week. But for the most part, guys, we have a lot of momentum. Another thing I like to do is I like to look and see if we're actually continuing the quantitative easing. And we are. You can see we started making this push from the Feds, doing QE right here. And then like a week ago, they pulled up a little bit back. Nobody talked about this on crypto Twitter. I know we talked about it, but nobody, I don't know why they did this. They didn't make an announcement why they did it, but they pulled a little bit back, but they did push in some more liquidity again. And this isn't going to be something, they're not going to dump all the money in overnight. And as the money comes in, it has to slowly rotate into the market. That's why I keep saying I think this is going to be a multi-month move going into midterms. All right. We got Jerome Powell being replaced. We got quantitative easing. We got stimulus checks hopefully coming. We're right around tax time. Liquidity is going to be high. Americans are going to have more money. They're going to put it back into the economy. We have pretty good looking data as far as the government, the economy is concerned for America is looking all right now. So I think this is how I create a bias for not just the week, but also where I think things are going to go in the near future. With that being said, guys, looking at the market generally speaking right now, I haven't been as excited for a move in the market as I have been right now, and it's just because we're finally getting the conditions that are required. All right. I'm interested to see how this week opens up. Again, tomorrow's Monday, guys. So don't forget, we could pump tonight, and then tomorrow, as this thing kind of extends down, this thing extends up, and then all of a sudden they want to do one of those Monday morning dumps where they wick it down, liquidate all the late longs, basically fill in. Because you have to think, guys, there's also a daily fair value gap that I think at some point they will want to kind of come in here and retest this. So as the 50 goes up, it kind of comes in, kind of fills the fair value gap, and then pushes up. And then on the 4-hour chart, the way that kind of looks is something like this. As this thing moves up, we get this bull flag. It is kind of bouncing in between zones. Dupe, dupe, dupe. It does that wick down. As it wicks down, it hits that 50-day, hits that box, fills that fair value gap, and then pushes up. All right? So, again, guys, I think generally speaking, the market looks pretty bullish right now. Again, I'm pretty excited for things. If you're new to this channel, if this is the first time you've ever seen any of my content or the first time you've ever, heard of Alpha Syndicate, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm just trying to help as many people as I possibly can understand these markets from a fundamental standpoint and understand the opportunity that is being created right now where most people are ignoring it. If you're looking to understand this type of stuff at a fundamental level, if you want to understand macroeconomics, if you want to understand fundamentals, technical analysis, if you want a community where you can be mentored and coached in order to understand these markets at a deeper level, along with have a place to be able to network with other entrepreneurs and investors, click the link below, guys. We'll see you inside.